The message came at 300 hours Earth Standard Time. Deep in the underground complex of Earth's Space Defense Command, Technician Rose Willis jerked awake as her monitoring station erupted with sound. The distinct pattern of pulses wasn't random, static. It was a signal, a powerful one, traveling across vast distances of space. "Computer, analyze signal pattern," Rose said, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The computer hummed. "Pattern matches Protocol 7 Alpha, Ancient Emergency Broadcast, System, Signal Origin, Galen System, approximately 42 light-years from Earth." Rose sat up straight. Protocol 7 Alpha was one of the oldest communication methods in the galaxy, taught to every spacefaring species as a universal distress call. It was the cosmic equivalent of SOS, used only in the most dire situations. "Decode message," she ordered. The computer worked for several moments. Then 3 simple sentences appeared on her screen. "Help us. They are coming. No one survives." Within an hour, the command center buzzed with activity. Captain Jack Reynolds strode through the doors, his tall frame and weathered face showing no signs of being woken in the middle of the night. At 53, Jack had seen almost everything space could throw at humanity. Yet a genuine 7 Alpha call was something new. "Talk to me," he said to Rose, who now stood before a larger display screen with the message glowing in red letters. "Signal is authentic, sir. It's definitely coming from the Galen system. The message repeats every 12 minutes. It's been broadcasting for approximately 3 days." Commander Pike, Jack's tactical officer, folded his arms across his broad chest. "Could be a trap. We've never had direct contact with anyone from the Galen system." "Or it could be exactly what it sounds like," Jack replied. "People who need help." General Morris, who had arrived moments after Jack, shook her head. "The Galen system is well beyond our established territory. We'd be sending ships into completely unknown space." The room fell silent as the command staff considered the implications. Humanity had been spacefaring for less than a century. While they had established colonies throughout their solar system and a few nearby stars, they remained relatively isolated. Most alien civilizations kept their distance from Earth ships. "Why?" Jack had once asked an alien diplomat. The answer had been, uncomfortably honest, "Because you come from a death world. Your bodies are too strong. Your minds too aggressive. You evolved to survive conditions that would kill most sentient species." Jack hadn't known whether to feel insulted or proud. The silence in the command center was broken by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. The doors slid open to reveal a tall, slender figure that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Ambassador Lyra of the Luminary Federation moved with a grace that made her seem almost weightless. Her crystalline skin caught the light as she entered, sending small rainbows dancing across the walls. "I apologize for interrupting," she said, her voice melodic. "My ship detected your increased communications activity. Is there a problem?" Jack stepped forward. "Ambassador, this is a military matter. I'm not sure." "We've received a distress signal," Rose interrupted, earning a sharp look from General Morris. "From the Galen system. Protocol 7 Alpha." The effect on Ambassador Lyra was immediate and startling. The gentle glow that emanated from her skin dimmed noticeably, and she took a step backward. "The Galen," she whispered. "Are you certain?" Jack studied her reaction carefully. "You know, them?" Lyra regained her composure with visible effort. "Everyone knows of the Galen Collective. They are ancient, peaceful. They rarely communicate with other species, but their telepathic abilities are legendary." She moved closer to the display screen. "If they have sent a 7 Alpha distress, call something terrible has happened." Pike remained skeptical. "And what would that something terrible be, Ambassador?" Lyra's crystalline features hardened. "There are rumors, stories of ships that come from the darkness between galaxies. They call themselves the Void Armada. They do not conquer. They consume." "Consume what?" asked Rose. "Everything," Lyra said, simply. "Worlds, resources, life." General Morris cleared her throat. "With respect, Ambassador, we can't launch a military response based on rumors and scary stories." "Then why did you answer my question?" Lyra challenged. If you don't believe me, why did you ask what could threaten the Galen? The room grew tense as the humans exchanged glances. Jack stepped between Morris and the ambassador. Because this isn't about belief, he said firmly. This is about a call for help, and we need all available information before we respond. Respond? Lyra's inner light pulsed with alarm. You cannot seriously be considering answering this call? Jack's expression hardened. That's exactly what we're considering, Ambassador. But the Galen system is over 40 light-years away. Even with your fastest ships, 3 weeks, Pike interjected. Our newest vessels can make it in 3 weeks. Lyra stared at them in disbelief. You would send your ships into unknown space, possibly against an enemy you know nothing about for people you have never met. Yes? Jack said without hesitation. We would. Ambassador Lyra studied the humans surrounding her, her crystalline features impossible to read. On my world, we believe in diplomatic solutions, opening communication channels, negotiation. Jack smiled, but there was steel behind it. On our world, Ambassador, we believe that when someone calls for help, you help them. 4 hours later, Captain Jack Reynolds stood in the massive hangar bay of Earth's orbital shipyard, watching as crews prepared the fleet for departure. 6 ships would make the journey, led by his own vessel, the EDF Resilience. Ambassador Lyra stood beside him, still clearly troubled. Your people are so eager for conflict, she observed. No, Jack corrected her. We are eager to prevent conflict, but we're prepared for it if prevention fails. The Luminary Council has ordered me to accompany your fleet, Lyra said stiffly. They believe I can moderate your response. Jack turned to face her. With all due respect, Ambassador, if the Galen are under attack as you described, moderation may not be what they need. What do you think they need, Captain? Lyra asked. Jack looked out at his ship, at the weapons systems being checked, at the squad of Marines boarding with their gear. They need people who know how to fight, he said simply. And coming from Earth, what did you call it? A death world? That's something we know how to do very well. He turned and walked toward the boarding tube, leaving Lyra to follow. Behind them, the signal from the Galen system continued its endless repetition across 42 light-years of space. Help us. They are coming. No one survives. The EDF Resilience moved through space like a predator, sleek, powerful, and dangerous. Captain Jack Reynolds stood on the bridge watching as the blue light of Earth's solar system faded behind them. 5 other ships followed in formation, each built for combat. Together they formed the first human rescue fleet to venture so far into unknown space. Jump drive charged and ready, Captain, Navigator Marsh reported from her station. A young woman with sharp eyes and steady hands, she was the best pilot in the Earth Defense Force. All ships report ready status, Commander Pike added. Jack nodded. Begin the jump sequence. Ambassador Lyra watched from the side of the bridge, her crystalline form tense. During her 3 years as diplomat to Earth, she had never traveled on a human military vessel. The Resilience was nothing like the elegant, peaceful ships of her people. Every surface seemed designed for function rather than beauty. The crew moved with purpose, their bodies stronger and denser than any Luminari. Jump. In 3, 2, 1. Marsh counted down. Space bent around them. Stars stretched into lines, then vanished. For a brief moment, reality itself seemed to tear apart before snapping back together. The view screen showed new stars, a new region of space. Jump complete, Marsh announced. All ships accounted for. Next jump point in 16 hours. Lyra leaned against the wall, her inner light dimmed with discomfort. The humans seemed completely unaffected by the violent transition between space-time points. Jack noticed her distress. First time jumping, Ambassador? Luminary ships transition more gently, she replied. Your method is very efficient, but rather uncomfortable. You'll get used to it, Jack said. We have 6 more jumps before we reach the Galen system. Lyra's eyes widened. 6? In only 3 weeks? Science Officer Gray approached, datapad in hand. Human jump technology is more advanced than most species realize, Ambassador. We evolved on a high-gravity world with dense muscles and strong bones. This allows us to withstand the physical stress of rapid jumps that would injure other species. Another benefit of being Deathworlders, Jack added with a hint of pride. Later, in the ship's mess hall, Lyra sat alone at a table, her food untouched. She didn't require the same nutrition as humans, living primarily on light and mineral supplements. The crew gave her space, unsure how to interact with the alien diplomat. Science Officer Gray, a tall woman with curious eyes, eventually approached and sat across from her. "May I join you?" she asked, though she had already sat down. Lyra nodded. "You're the xenobiologist, correct?" "Yes, I specialize in non-human biology." Gray leaned forward. "I'd like to learn more about the Galen Collective. Our records contain very little information." Lyra hesitated. Her government had ordered her to limit information sharing, but withholding details about the Galen could endanger the mission. "The Galen are silicon-based life forms," she finally said. "They resemble crystalline structures somewhat like my people, but with significant differences. Where luminari absorb and redirect light, Galen process and store energy. They can live for thousands of years." "And they're telepathic?" Gray asked. "Powerfully so. They rarely speak aloud, communicating mind to mind. This is why few species interact with them. Most find their mental presence uncomfortable." Gray made notes on her datapad. "Would humans be affected by this telepathy?" "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "Your species has proven unusual in many ways." At that moment, Lieutenant Stone entered the mess hall. The security chief was a compact, muscular man with watchful eyes that immediately fixed on Lyra. He collected his food and deliberately sat at the table next to theirs, close enough to hear their conversation. Gray noticed his presence, but continued. "And what about the Void Armada? What more can you tell us about them?" Lyra's inner light dimmed. "Very little is known with certainty. They appeared at the edge of known space perhaps 50 years ago. Several outer colonies went silent. Investigation teams found only empty worlds, stripped of resources, devoid of life." "Sounds like pirates or raiders," Stone interjected, not bothering to pretend he wasn't listening. Lyra turned to him. "No, Lieutenant. Pirates take valuables. Raiders take people. The Void takes everything. Atmosphere, water, organic matter. They even extract metals from the planet's core." "Why?" Gray asked. "Their ships are said to be living organisms, massive entities that require constant feeding," Stone snorted. "Living ships? Sounds like ghost stories to scare children." "Your disbelief doesn't change reality," Lyra said coldly. The following week passed in tense routine. The fleet completed 3 more jumps, each taking them farther from known space. Captain Jack held daily briefings with his officers, reviewing what little information they had and preparing combat scenarios. After the 4th jump, Lieutenant Stone requested a private meeting with Jack and Commander Pike. "The ambassador has been sending encrypted transmissions back to her government," Stone reported without preamble. Jack frowned. "We gave her communication privileges. That's expected." "Yes, sir. But I've been monitoring the frequency of these communications. They've increased substantially in the past 3 days." Pike leaned forward. "What's she saying?" "The encryption is too complex to break completely, but I've identified certain patterns. She appears to be giving details about our weapon systems, defensive capabilities, and jump technology." Jack's expression hardened. "Bring her to my ready room, now." 20 minutes later, Ambassador Lyra stood before Jack, Commander Pike, and Lieutenant Stone. Her crystalline form seemed less luminous under their hard stares. "You've been sharing information about my ship with your government," Jack said. Lyra didn't deny it. "I am a diplomat. Reporting to my superiors is my duty. Reporting sensitive military specifications goes beyond diplomatic duties," Pike countered. "What is your government planning, Ambassador?" Jack asked directly. Lyra's composure faltered. "My people fear what may happen if humans enter the wider galaxy in force. The Luminary Council ordered me to discourage this rescue mission. When I failed, they instructed me to gather information." "For what purpose?" Stone demanded. "To prepare," Lyra admitted. The Luminari and other species have maintained peace through balance. Humans upset that balance. You build ships for war. You embrace risk. You respond to a distant distress call with military force. Jack leaned back in his chair. We respond with what's needed. If the Galen are under attack, they don't need diplomats. They need defenders. This is why you're feared, Lyra said softly. Deathworlders see conflict as the first solution. Jack shook his head. No, Ambassador. We see protecting the innocent as our first duty. There's a difference. Before Lyra could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Pike grabbed his communicator. Bridge, report. Navigator Marsh's voice came through. Unidentified vessel, sir, it appeared, from nowhere. Moving faster than anything I've seen. Battle stations. Jack ordered, already heading for the door. Ambassador, this conversation isn't over. On the bridge, the view screen showed empty space. Sensors indicated a vessel had passed within scanning range before vanishing. It was there for only 6 seconds, Marsh explained. But it scanned us completely. Void Armada scout ship, Lyra whispered, her light pulsing with fear. They know. We're coming now. Jack turned to her. Then we'd better move faster. Marsh, prepare the fleet for emergency jump sequence. We're accelerating the timeline. As the crew rushed to prepare, Jack stood at the center of his bridge. Whether the ambassador was a potential ally or a security risk would have to wait. The real enemy had found them, and the race to reach the Galen had begun. The Galen system appeared on the view screen as a scene from a nightmare. What should have been a vibrant solar system with multiple planets now resembled a partially eaten meal. The main planet, once the homeworld of the Galen Collective, was cracked open like an egg, its core exposed to space. Massive ships, unlike anything the humans had ever seen, hovered around it like dark insects. My God, whispered Science Officer Gray. They've destroyed the entire planet. Captain Jack. Reynolds leaned forward in his command chair, his face hard as stone. Sensors, full scan. I want to know what we're dealing with. Sir, the sensor operator replied. Those ships, they're reading as partially organic, mixed technology and biological components. Ambassador Lyra stood frozen at the edge of the bridge, her crystalline form dimmed to almost complete darkness. The stories were true, she whispered. The Void Armada consumes worlds. Commander Pike pointed to a small moon orbiting a gas giant at the edge of the system. Captain, I'm detecting energy readings from that moon. Some kind of shield, and life signs beneath it. Jack straightened. Survivors. The Void ships haven't approached that moon yet, Lieutenant Stone observed. Maybe they don't know about it. Or maybe they're saving it for dessert, Pike said, grimly. Jack turned to his officers. We need to make contact with those survivors. Pike, prepare a stealth shuttle. Small team, minimal signature. I will accompany you, Lyra said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. Stone immediately objected. After your secret communications? Not a chance. Lyra stepped forward. The Galen are telepaths. If humans approach alone, they may panic. They need to see a familiar species. Someone they might trust. Jack studied her for a long moment. She's right. The ambassador comes with us. Lieutenant Stone, you'll lead security. Commander Pike has command of the fleet while we're gone. An hour later, a small shuttle detached from the Resilience. Its stealth systems engaged, making it nearly invisible to sensors. Inside, Jack, Stone, Gray, and Lyra sat in tense silence as Navigator Marsh guided the craft toward the distant moon. Approaching the shield, Marsh reported. It's unstable, fluctuating power readings. Gray studied her instruments. The shield is failing. It might not last another day. Can we pass through without damaging it? Jack asked. I think so, Marsh replied. There's a pattern to the fluctuations. If I time it right, the shuttle slipped through a momentary weakness in the energy shield. Below them, the moon's surface came into view. What had once been a barren rock had been transformed into a series of connected domes and tunnels, a hastily built refuge. They're hailing us. Stone reported with surprise. Audio only. Put it through, Jack ordered. A voice, strangely musical yet filled with static, filled the shuttle. Unknown vessel. You are not void. Identify. Jack leaned toward the comm. This is Captain Jack Reynolds of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. There was a long pause. Then, Earth? You are humans? Yes. We've come to help. Another pause. Land at the coordinates we are sending. Approach with care. Our defenses are limited. The shuttle touched down inside a dome large enough to serve as a landing pad. As the doors opened, Jack led his team out, weapons ready, but not raised. Stone positioned himself slightly ahead, eyes scanning for threats. They were met by figures that seemed to be made of living crystal, similar to Lyra but more angular, with facets that reflected light in complex patterns. One stepped forward, taller than the others. I am Elder Thal, he said, his voice producing those same musical tones they had heard over the comm. Last leader of the Galen Collective. Ambassador Lyra stepped forward and performed a complex gesture with her hands. The Luminari Federation extends sympathy for your suffering, Elder. Thal's crystal body shifted slightly toward her. Luminari, you have come far. Then he turned to the humans. But not as far as these Deathworlders. Jack stepped forward. We received your distress call. Our fleet is holding position at the edge of your system. Fleet? Thal's body pulsed with light. You brought warriors? 6 ships, Jack confirmed. Armed and ready, the Galen surrounding them began to shimmer with increasing intensity, their crystal bodies vibrating. Jack felt a strange pressure in his mind, like gentle fingers trying to open a door. They're attempting telepathic contact, Lyra warned. Jack stood his ground. We're here to help, but we do it our way. No mind reading. The pressure vanished. Elder Thal's light dimmed slightly. Fascinating. Your minds are as shielded as your bodies are strong. Perhaps there is hope after all. He gestured. For them to follow. Come, I will show you what remains of our civilization. They walked through tunnels carved into the moon's rock, lined with crystal that provided light. Hundreds of Galen moved through these passages, their bodies dimmed with what Jack recognized as exhaustion or illness. How many survived? Gray asked quietly. 12,000, Thal replied. From a population of billions. What happened? Jack asked. Thal led them into a larger chamber with a view of space. Through the transparent dome, they could see the distant shapes of the void ships surrounding the broken planet. They came without warning, Thal explained. Their ships do not attack in the way you might understand. They attach to a world and feed. The planet itself is their food. Rock, water, air, all consumed to fuel their growth. And the people? Stone asked. Thal's light flickered in what seemed to be pain. Also consumed. The void makes no distinction between sentient life and resources. Why didn't you fight back? Stone asked. Lyra answered before Thal could. The Galen are pacifists, Lieutenant. They have no weapons. We believed cooperation and communication were the path to survival, Thal added. We were wrong. The void does not negotiate. It only consumes. Jack looked out at the distant enemy ships. How long have you been hiding here? 42 of your Earth days, Thal replied. Our shield generator is failing. When it does, he didn't finish the sentence. Why did you send the distress call? Jack asked. If you believed no one would help, Thal's crystal form shifted, facets turning to catch the light differently. Hope, Captain. Even as we prepared to join our ancestors, we hoped someone might record our passing, that the galaxy would know what happened here. We're not here to record your passing, Jack said firmly. We're here to prevent it. Before Thal could respond, Stone's communicator beeped. Captain, the fleet is reporting movement. The void ships have detected our presence. They're sending vessels toward the moon. Jack turned to Thal. We're out of time for talk. Do you want our help? The Elder's crystal body pulsed with light. What can 6 ships do against the Void Armada? They have destroyed our world. We come from a world that tried to destroy us many times, Jack replied. Earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, storms. Earth throws death at humans every day. We learned to fight back. Now we'll fight for you. A tremendous boom shook the entire dome. Stone checked his tactical display. They're testing the shield. It won't hold for long. Jack activated his communicator. Reynolds to fleet. Execute attack pattern Delta. Focus fire on the smaller vessels approaching the moon. From orbit, the human ships moved with surprising speed. They had been built to fight in Earth's dense atmosphere and heavy gravity. In the vacuum of space, they were terrifyingly agile. Through the dome, Jack and the others watched as bright beams of energy lanced out from the human ships, striking the approaching void vessels. Where the beams hit, the dark hulls of the enemy began to glow and rupture. Your weapons are effective, Thal observed with surprise. High-energy plasma, Jack explained, generates extreme heat. Heat. Thal's body brightened. Yes, the void. Entities avoid stars. They cannot tolerate high temperatures. For the first time since arriving in the Galen system, Jack smiled. Then we just found their weakness. The battle continued above them, human ships dancing around the larger, slower void vessels. But even as they watched, more enemy ships began to move away from the broken planet, turning their attention to the new threat. There are too many, Lyra said quietly. Jack's smile faded, but his resolve didn't. Get your people ready to evacuate, Elder Thal. This moon won't be safe much longer. Evacuate? To where? To our ships, Jack replied. This isn't the final battle, it's just the first round. The command center of the EDF Resilience had never been so crowded. Captain Jack Reynolds stood at the central table, surrounded by his officers, Ambassador Lyra, Elder Thal, and several other Galen representatives. A holographic display showed the Galen system, with red dots representing the Void Armada ships. We evacuated 8,000 Galen to our fleet, Commander Pike reported. The remaining 4,000 are on their way. The moon's shield failed 10 minutes ago. Jack nodded. The evacuation had been chaotic but successful. The human ships, designed with modular compartments, had been quickly converted to house the crystal-like refugees. The void vessels are regrouping, Lieutenant Stone said, pointing to the display. They're forming a blockade between us and the jump point. They're trying to trap us in the system. Elder Thal's crystalline body dimmed. The void entity learns quickly. It recognizes your ships as a threat now. Entity, singular? Science Officer Gray asked. You speak as if there's only one consciousness. There is, Thal confirmed. The ships are merely extensions of a single mind, the void entity. It exists simultaneously across all vessels, learning and adapting as one. Jack studied the tactical display. That's why they're coordinating so effectively. They're not communicating. They're parts of the same organism. In the ship's medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Rivers worked alongside Galen healers, treating injured refugees. The doctor, a woman with dark skin and steady hands, had discovered something unusual. Their crystalline structure is weakening, she explained to Jack when he visited. Not just from physical damage. They're experiencing some kind of energy deficiency. A Galen healer named Mosa approached. Unlike most Galen who communicated telepathically among themselves, Mosa had learned to speak aloud for the humans' benefit. We require specific light frequencies, Mosa explained. Our homeworld provided these naturally. Without them, our bodies grow weak. Rivers nodded. Like plants without sunlight. Jack turned to Engineer Rose, who had accompanied him. Can we modify our ship's lighting systems? Already working on it, Captain, Rose replied. Technician Cooper is collaborating with some Galen engineers. They're integrating crystalline technology with our systems to create the right frequencies. In another part of the ship, Cooper, a young man with quick hands and quicker mind, worked alongside a Galen engineer. They had dismantled several light panels and were rewiring them with crystal components. Amazing, Cooper said, watching as the Galen manipulated crystal fragments with their thoughts, shaping them precisely. You control the atomic structure directly. The Galen engineer's light pulsed in what Cooper had learned was their equivalent of a smile. And your ability to create tools that substitute for abilities you don't naturally possess is equally impressive. The bridge. Jack received a communication from the fleet's other ships. The captains reported similar collaborations happening throughout the evacuation fleet. Humans and Galen were working together, combining technologies in ways neither species had imagined before. Captain, Communications Officer Lee called out. We're receiving a transmission. It's directed specifically at you. Source? Jack asked. The largest void vessel. The bridge fell silent. Jack nodded. Put it through. The view screen flickered. Instead of showing a face or figure, it displayed a shifting pattern of darkness that somehow formed words without sound. The message appeared directly in their minds. Deathworlders. We recognize your pattern. Your bodies contain useful elements. Surrender the Galen. Depart. You will be permitted to exist. For now. Ambassador Lyra stepped back, her crystalline form dimming with fear. Even Jack felt a chill run through him. The voice had bypassed his ears, speaking directly to his thoughts. It's attempting to intimidate us, Elder Thal explained. The void entity uses primitive telepathy to communicate. Jack straightened his shoulders. Send a response. Tell it that the Galen are under our protection. We will not surrender them or depart without them. Lee hesitated. Sir, how do I? Simply think the message clearly, Thal said. The entity will receive it. A moment later, the reply came. Your protection is temporary. Your resources are finite. We are eternal. We are patient. The screen went dark. Jack turned to his officers. Well, negotiation failed. Time for Plan B. Which is? Pike asked. Jack moved to the tactical display. We fight our way out, but not yet. First, we need a better weapon. In the medical bay, Rivers made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying tissue samples from injured humans and Galen, comparing their cellular structures when she noticed something strange. Captain, you need to see this, she said when Jack visited for an update. She showed him microscope images of human blood cells next to samples from a void ship fragment they had recovered during the battle. Human DNA has an unusual effect on void biological systems, Rivers explained. It disrupts their cellular cohesion. Essentially, our genetic material is toxic to them. Jack stared at the images. How toxic? Very. The effect isn't just at the contact point. It cascades through their systems. It's like their biology has never encountered anything like human cells before. They have no defense against it. Jack's mind raced with possibilities. Could we weaponize this? Rivers nodded slowly. Theoretically, yes. If we created a delivery mechanism that could disperse human genetic material into their systems, it could spread throughout the connected vessels. Because they're all part of the same organism, Jack realized. Infect one ship, and you infect them all, Rivers finished. For the next 12 hours, the fleet remained in defensive formation while Rivers, Rose, Cooper, and the Galen engineers worked to create a bioweapon based on human DNA. The Void. Armada ships maintained their blockade, occasionally testing the human defenses with smaller vessels. Jack called a meeting to explain the plan. We've created a weapon that targets the Void entity's biological systems, he told his officers and the Galen representatives. But we need to deliver it to the command ship, the largest vessel at the center of their formation. Lieutenant. Stone studied the tactical display. That's suicide, sir. We can't get a ship through their blockade. Not a ship, Jack agreed. A team. A small strike force using our stealth shuttle. Pike shook his head. Even with stealth, they detect us before we could reach the command ship. Not if they're distracted, Jack said. The fleet will launch an all-out attack on their perimeter forces. During the chaos, the shuttle can slip through. Who would lead this strike team? Pike asked, though he already knew the answer. Lieutenant. Stone has the most experience with stealth operations, Jack replied. He'll command the mission. Stone nodded grimly. I'll need volunteers, small team, minimal signatures. To everyone's surprise, Ambassador Lyra stepped forward. I will join this mission. The humans stared at her. Stone was the first to object. Ambassador, with all due respect, this is a military operation. The void entity can detect thoughts, Lyra explained, but it has difficulty reading luminary minds. Our crystalline structure creates natural interference. I can help shield your team's mental signatures as you approach. Jack studied her. Why? Ambassador? A few days ago you were sending reports about our weaknesses to your government. Lyra's form brightened with determination. Because I was wrong, Captain. I feared what humans might do in our galaxy. Now I fear what will happen without you. After a moment, Jack nodded. Very well. Ambassador Lyra joins the strike team. As the meeting ended, Elder Thal approached Jack privately. Captain, there is something more the Galen can offer. Our telepathic abilities are stronger than the void entities. Together we could create a mental shield around your strike team, making them invisible to the entity's awareness. You'd do that? Jack asked. Use your abilities as a weapon? Thal's crystalline body shifted. Not as a weapon, Captain. As protection. Even pacifists defend themselves and their friends when necessary. Jack placed a hand on Thal's crystal shoulder, feeling its cool surface. Thank you. As preparations continued, Jack stood alone on the observation deck, watching the distant void ships. Tomorrow, they would launch their desperate plan. The fate of 12,000 Galen refugees, and possibly the entire fleet, would depend on a small team carrying a weapon made from human DNA. Deathworlders, Jack murmured to himself. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. The battle began with a flash of light that momentarily outshone the Galen system's dying sun. The human fleet, now positioned in attack formation, unleashed their weapons against the void blockade. Plasma beams cut through space, striking the outer vessels of the void armada. On the bridge of the Resilience, Captain Jack Reynolds watched the tactical display. All ships, focus fire on Sector 7. Create a gap. The human ships moved with precision, their attacks coordinated to appear random while actually following a careful plan. They needed to draw the void entity's attention away from the small stealth shuttle, now detaching from the underside of the Resilience. Inside the shuttle, Lieutenant Stone checked his team's equipment one final time. 6 humans and Ambassador. Lyra prepared for what might be a one-way mission. Bioweapon secure, reported Technician Cooper, patting the metallic case strapped to his chest. Inside was the delivery system containing human DNA modified to attack the void entity's biological systems. Communications check, Stone ordered. Each team member confirmed their comlink. Lyra, wearing an adapted human environment suit over her crystalline form, nodded to indicate her readiness. Remember, Stone told his team, the Galen telepaths will shield our approach, but once we're inside the command ship, we're on our own. Ambassador Lyra will help mask our thoughts but stay focused. The entity can sense stray emotions, especially fear. The shuttle's engines engaged, pushing them away from the Resilience on a trajectory that would keep them hidden in the shadow of debris from the destroyed Galen homeworld. Back on the Resilience, Elder Thol and 50 Galen sat in a circle, their crystalline bodies glowing with concentrated energy. In the center of their formation, a holographic display showed the position of Stone's shuttle. We have them, Thal told Jack. The entity cannot sense them while we maintain the shield. Jack nodded. How long can you hold it? Perhaps 2 hours, Thal replied, his light dimming slightly. The effort is considerable. The battle intensified as the void ships recognized the human attack pattern and began to adapt. Their dark hulls shifted, developing new protrusions that fired energy beams back at the human fleet. They're learning, Commander Pike observed. Good, Jack replied. Keep them focused on us. The stealth shuttle navigated through the battlefield, dodging debris and energy discharges. Inside, the human team felt the pressure of the Galen telepathic shield. a strange, comforting presence in their minds. Approaching the command vessel, Navigator Marsh announced from the pilot's seat. Its defensive systems are active, but focused outward. The massive void command ship loomed before them, a nightmarish structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its surface shifted constantly, like living tissue breathing. There, Lyra pointed to a darker section on the vessel's underside. That appears to be an intake port. The entity consumes matter through those openings. Stone nodded. That's our way in. Marsh, take us in slow. The shuttle approached the massive opening. No weapons fired at them. No alarms sounded. The Galen shield was working. We're inside, Marsh whispered as the shuttle passed through the opening into a cavernous space filled with pulsating organic material. The walls seemed alive, moving with rhythmic contractions. Stone turned to his team. From here, we go on foot. The bioweapon needs to reach the central node, what they call the brain of this ship. They exited the shuttle wearing environment suits, weapons ready. The interior of the void vessel was hot and humid, more like the inside of a living creature than a spacecraft. The floor pulsed beneath their feet. This way, Lyra said, consulting a small device. I'm detecting the strongest energy signatures in that direction. They moved through twisting corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves. Sometimes the passages narrowed, forcing them to squeeze through tissue-like membranes. The deeper they went, the more the ship seemed aware of their presence. It knows something is wrong, Lyra warned. It can't locate us precisely, but it senses an intrusion. The walls around them began to secrete a dark fluid that ate through the floor where it dripped. The team quickened their pace. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the ship's core. A pulsating orb of darkness hung suspended in the center, connected to the walls by thousands of tendrils. The central node, Cooper whispered. The bioweapon needs to be placed directly against it. Stone surveyed the chamber. There's no cover. Once we move toward that thing, we'll be exposed. I'll go, Cooper volunteered, clutching the weapon case. No, Ambassador Lyra said firmly. The entity will detect a human mind immediately. But my crystalline structure gives me natural shielding. I should go. Stone hesitated. Ambassador, this isn't your fight. Lyra's form brightened. You're wrong, Lieutenant. This became my fight when I saw humans risk everything to save a species, not their own. My people were wrong about Deathworlders. Your aggression isn't a flaw. It's what drives you to protect others. Before Stone could argue further, the chamber shuddered. The entity had located them. Intruders. Deathworlders. You bring corruption. The voice echoed in their minds, painful and invasive. Several team members dropped to their knees, holding their heads. It's attacking telepathically, Lyra gasped. The Galen shield is failing. Stone fought through the pain. We need to deploy the weapon now. Lyra took the case from Cooper. Cover me. The human team spread out, firing their weapons at the tendrils that now lashed toward them. Lyra ran toward the central node, her crystalline form glowing brighter with each step. The entity sensed her approach. Tendrils whipped toward her from all directions. The humans fired continuously, severing some, but not all. One tendril wrapped around Lyra's leg, burning through her suit where it touched. She stumbled but continued forward, now only meters from the node. Another tendril struck her back, cracking her crystalline form. She cried out but didn't stop. Ambassador. Stone shouted. Lyra reached the central node. With her last strength, she pressed the bioweapon against its surface and activated it. The case opened, releasing a fine mist of human genetic material directly into the entity's most vulnerable point. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The node pulsed, then began to darken. The tendrils thrashed wildly, then fell limp. A silent scream echoed through their minds as the entity realized what was happening. What is this? What have you done? Lyra collapsed beside the node, her crystalline form cracked and dimming. Stone rushed to her side, lifting her carefully. The weapon? He asked. Deployed, she whispered. Is it working? Throughout the chamber, the organic material was changing color, darkening from black to gray. The walls stopped pulsing. The tendrils crumbled to dust. "Stone to resilience," the lieutenant called over his comm. "Weapon deployed." "What's happening?" "Out there?" Jack's voice came through, filled with amazement. "The Void ship, they're shutting down. All of them. Whatever you did is spreading through the entire armada." Stone looked at Lyra. "It worked. Ambassador, we need to get you out of here." Her light flickered weakly. "I don't think I'll be leaving, Lieutenant." "Like hell you won't," Stone said, lifting her completely. "Humans don't leave anyone behind." "Back on the Resilience, Captain." Jack and Commander Pike watched in amazement as the Void Armada ships went dark one by one. Within their hulls, the single consciousness that had terrorized the galaxy was dying, its biological systems overtaken by the human DNA weapon. "Some of the smaller vessels are showing signs of independent life," Science Officer Gray reported, "as if individual components are separating from the entity's control." There might be innocent life forms incorporated into those ships, Jack realized. "Prepare rescue teams. Any part of those vessels that can be saved, we save." Hours later, the stealth shuttle returned to the Resilience. Stone's team emerged, carrying Ambassador Lyra's damaged form directly to the medical bay. In the days that followed, the human fleet began the long journey home, carrying 12,000 Galen refugees and samples from the now inactive Void vessels. Smaller ships had indeed contained enslaved life forms from dozens of worlds, now free from the entity's control. In the medical bay, Dr. Rivers worked tirelessly with Galen healers to repair Ambassador Lyra's crystalline structure. The damage was severe but not beyond recovery. "You know," Jack said, visiting her bedside, "the Luminary Federation is going to be very surprised when they get their ambassador back with a new perspective on Deathworlders." Lyra's damaged form glowed faintly. "They need to understand. The galaxy needs humans, not despite your aggressive nature, but because of it. When properly directed, it becomes protection." On the bridge, Communications Officer Lee approached Jack with a puzzled expression. "Sir, we're receiving multiple signals. They're distress calls from all over the sector." "More Void attacks?" Jack asked. "No, sir. Different threats. Different species. But they're all using Protocol 7 Alpha." Jack looked at the display showing dozens of new distress signals. It seemed their reputation had spread. "Looks like the galaxy has figured out who to call when they need protection," Pike observed. Jack nodded slowly. "Set course for the nearest signal." It seems the Deathworlders have work to do. In the vast darkness of space, the Earth fleet changed direction, moving toward another cry for help. The humans had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors, but as defenders. Their Deathworld-honed agree. The Deep Space Monitoring Station floated silently in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. Its name was Cerberus, and it had been humanity's ear to the universe for over 20 years. Most days, it caught nothing but cosmic noise and the regular chatter from mining ships heading to the asteroid belt. Lisa Martinez sat at her console, half asleep after another 12-hour shift. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, and the endless stream of radio static was making her eyes heavy. She was about to call it a night when something made her sit up straight. "What the hell?" she whispered, adjusting her headphones. The signal was different. It wasn't the usual background noise or human transmissions. This was something else entirely. The frequency was wrong, the pattern was alien, and it was strong enough to be coming from somewhere close. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard, isolating the signal and running it through the computer systems. Her heart started beating faster as the translation program began working. They had built it years ago as a joke, wondering what they would do if they ever found aliens. Now it didn't seem so funny. "Captain Reed to the communications bay, Priority 1, she called over the intercom. Captain James Reed arrived within minutes, still pulling on his uniform jacket. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes, someone who had spent too many years staring into empty space. But when he saw Lisa's face, all the tiredness disappeared. "What do you have for me?" he asked. "Sir, I think you need to hear this," Lisa said, her voice shaking slightly. "The computer has been working on it for 10 minutes, and I think we're getting a translation." She pressed play, and the speakers filled with sounds that no human had ever heard before. It was clearly a voice, but the pitch was wrong. The rhythm was strange. Then the computer's translation began to speak in a calm electronic voice. "Emergency transmission to Vorthak High Command. This is Sanctuary Defense Command calling for immediate military assistance. The Grimlock Raiders have broken through our outer defenses. Repeat. The Grimlock Horde has broken through. They are attacking civilian centers. We count over 300 enemy ships." Reed felt his blood turn cold. "Keep playing," he ordered. The alien voice continued, and the desperation was clear even through the translation. "They are not taking prisoners. The colonies on Haven and Peace River have gone silent. We believe they are executing the entire population. Our defense fleet cannot hold them much longer. We are requesting immediate deployment of Vorthak Battle Group 7 through 12. There was a pause, filled with static and what sounded like explosions in the background. "Please respond, Vorthak Command. We have women and children in the evacuation centers. The Grimlocks are using weapons banned by Galactic law. They are burning everything. If you can hear this message, we need help now. We cannot survive another attack." The transmission cut to static, then started repeating from the beginning. Reed stared at the speakers for a long moment. His mind was racing, trying to process what they had just heard. First contact with alien life, and it was a desperate cry for help against something called the Grimlock Horde. "How far away is this coming from?" he asked. Lisa checked her readings. "Based on signal strength and the delay pattern, I'd say maybe 40 light years. The signal is about 6 hours old." "So this is happening right now," Reed muttered. He walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was being slaughtered while they begged for help from allies who might not even be listening. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "there's more. I've been monitoring the Vorthak frequency they mentioned. There's been no response, nothing at all." Reed turned back to her. "How long has this distress call been repeating?" 4 hours, sir. The same message, over and over. No one is answering them." The captain felt something burning in his chest. It was the same feeling he had gotten years ago when he saw bullies picking on smaller kids in school. The same feeling that had made him join the military in the first place. Someone was crying for help and the people who were supposed to protect them had turned their backs. "Record everything," he ordered. "I want every word of that transmission saved and analyzed. Also, start scanning for any other signals in that area of space." "Yes, sir. What are you going to do?" Reed was quiet for a moment, thinking about the decision that could change everything for humanity. They had always wondered what they would do if they found other life in the universe. Now they knew. There were civilizations out there, and some of them needed help. "I'm going to contact Earth Command," he said finally. "This is way above my pay grade." As Lisa worked at her console, Reed sat down at the communication array that connected directly to Terra Command on Earth. His message would take 23 minutes to reach home, and another 23 for a reply. But he knew what he had to say. "Terra Command, this is Captain Reed aboard Monitoring Station Cerberus. We have intercepted what appears to be an alien distress signal. A species calling themselves the Kalani are under attack by hostile forces called the Grimlock Horde. Their allies, the Vorthak Empire, are not responding to calls for help." He paused, looking out at the stars again. "Somewhere out there, people were dying. The situation appears to be genocide in progress. The Kalani are requesting immediate military assistance. They have approximately 6 hours before their defenses fail completely. I am forwarding all data and requesting immediate instructions. However, I am also recommending immediate military response. We cannot stand by and watch an entire civilization be destroyed." Reed sent the message and sat back in his chair. In less than an hour, humanity would learn that they were not alone in the universe. And their first contact would be a choice between safety and doing what was right. The alien distress call continued to repeat in the background, each repetition sounding more desperate than the last. Admiral Kate Morrison was having her morning coffee when the priority alert came through. The red light on her desk started flashing, and the computer's voice filled her office with words that made her nearly drop her cup. "Admiral, Incoming transmission. From Deep Space Monitoring Station Cerberus. Classification, First Contact Protocol. Repeat, First Contact Protocol. Morrison set down her coffee and pressed the emergency button that would summon the military council. In 30 years of service, she had never seen a first contact alert. They had prepared for it, trained for it, but no one really believed it would happen. The message from Captain Reed played through her speakers, and with each word, Morrison felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. Alien civilizations. Genocide. A species calling for help while their supposed allies ignored them. Within 20 minutes, the war room was filled with the top military leaders of Earth. General Robert Hayes from the Army, Admiral David Chen from the Space Navy, and Director Emma Stone from Intelligence. They all listened to the alien distress call in silence. "How long do we have?" Morrison asked when the recording finished. "Based on the signal delay and the timestamps, maybe 5 hours before their defenses collapse completely," Director Stone replied, checking her tablet. "The colony won't survive another major attack." General Hayes leaned forward. "We're talking about revealing ourselves to an entire galaxy. Once we send ships, there's no going back. Everyone will know humans exist. And if we don't send ships, we'll know we could have saved millions of lives and chose not to," Admiral Chen replied quietly. Morrison looked around the room at the faces of people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. Now they were being asked to protect strangers they had never met, from a threat they didn't understand. "What do we know about human military capabilities compared to these aliens?" she asked. Director Stone pulled up a holographic display. "Based on the transmission, the colony have energy shields and directed energy weapons. Standard galactic technology, it seems. But here's the interesting part. They're fighting from fixed positions and seem surprised by the Grimlock tactics." "Meaning?" Morrison asked. "Meaning they fight like civilized beings who follow rules of war. The Grimlocks don't. They attack. Civilians use banned weapons and fight to completely destroy their enemies." Admiral Chen smiled grimly. "Sounds like they've never fought humans before." Morrison understood what he meant. Humanity had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. They had fought in every environment their planet could throw at them, from frozen tundra to burning deserts, from the bottom of oceans to the vacuum of space. They had learned to fight dirty when they had to, and to fight clean when they chose to. "Our ships are built for Earth gravity and Earth weather," General Hayes said. "That makes them stronger than anything designed for easier worlds. Our soldiers are trained for real combat, not the polite warfare these aliens seem to practice." "What about numbers?" Morrison asked. "The Grimlock Horde has about 300 ships attacking the colony homeworld," Director Stone replied. "We can have 150 ships there in 6 hours if we move now." "Only 150 against 300? Admiral Chen grinned. "Admiral, those alien ships were built by people who never had to survive Earth storms or Earth gravity. Our smallest destroyer could probably take on 5 of their ships." Morrison stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the spaceport. She could see the massive shapes of human warships docked at the orbital platforms. Ships like the dreadnought Ragnarok, built to survive anything the universe could throw at them. "There's something else to consider," Director Stone said quietly. "If we save the colony, we'll be making enemies of the Grimlock Horde and potentially the Vorthak Empire. We'll be announcing to the galaxy that Earth is a military power." "Good," Morrison said, turning back to face the room. "Maybe it's time the galaxy learned that bullies aren't welcome in this part of space." She walked back to her desk and pressed the button that would connect her to every military base on Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. "All commands, this is Admiral Morrison. Activate Protocol 7. I repeat, activate Protocol 7. This is not a drill." Protocol 7 was something they had hoped never to use. It was the complete mobilization of Earth's military forces for an external threat. Across the solar system, alarm bells started ringing and soldiers began running to their ships. "General Hayes, I want 30,000 of our best ground troops ready for deployment. Marines, Rangers, and Special Forces. People who know how to fight in any environment." "Yes, ma'am. What about equipment?" "Full battle gear. If we're introducing ourselves to the galaxy, let's make sure they understand what kind of species they're dealing with. Admiral Chen was already working on his tablet. I can have Battlefleet Omega ready to jump in 4 hours. The Ragnarok will be our flagship, supported by cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Do it, Morrison ordered. And Chen? Make sure every ship is loaded with enough ammunition to fight a real war. Something tells me we're going to need it. As the room emptied and officers ran to prepare humanity's first interstellar military operation, Morrison sat alone for a moment. She thought about the alien voice in the distress call, so desperate and afraid. She thought about children on distant worlds hiding from monsters they couldn't fight. Then she thought about human soldiers, born and raised in Earth's crushing gravity, trained in Earth's harsh environments, carrying weapons designed to work in the worst conditions imaginable. You picked the wrong species to ignore, she said quietly, thinking of the Vorthak Empire who had abandoned their allies. And you picked the wrong species to slaughter, she added, thinking of the Grimlock Horde. The Kalani had sent their distress call to the wrong hands. But for the first time in their history, that might be exactly what they needed. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kalani system, and what they saw made every soldier's blood boil with rage. Captain Tom Bradley stood on the bridge of the destroyer Phoenix, staring at the tactical display with disgust. The Grimlock Horde had surrounded the planet called Sanctuary like vultures around a dying animal. Their ships were crude and ugly, covered in spikes and weapon ports that spoke of a species that loved violence for its own sake. Count them. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the communication system from the flagship Ragnarok. 312 enemy vessels, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Maria Santos from the sensor station. They're in attack formation. Around the planet. It looks like they're preparing for final bombardment. Through the main viewer, they could see Sanctuary burning. Parts of the planet's surface glowed red where the Grimlocks had already begun their destruction. The beautiful blue and green world was being turned into a wasteland. Sir, Santos continued, I'm picking up a weak transmission from the planet's surface. It's on the same frequency as the distress call we intercepted. Put it through, Bradley ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was tired and frightened, but still trying to sound brave. The computer translated the alien words into English. This is Dr. Nira Vex, Sanctuary Defense Command. To any friendly vessels receiving this transmission, we are under heavy attack. Our orbital defenses are down. We have approximately 2 million civilians in underground shelters, but the Grimlock ground forces are breaking through our defensive lines. Bradley felt his jaw clench. 2 million innocent people hiding underground while monsters hunted them down. Our fleet is destroyed, the alien voice continued. We estimate 6 hours before complete planetary bombardment begins. If anyone can hear this, please remember that we tried to be good neighbors to the galaxy. Tell our story. The transmission cut to static. Bradley looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all volunteers, people who had signed up to protect Earth and humanity's colonies. Now they were being asked to protect complete strangers. And he could see in their eyes that they were ready to do it. Admiral Morrison to all ships. The fleet commander's voice filled the bridge. You've all heard the situation. Somewhere down on that planet, 2 million people are waiting to die. They've never met a human being, but they're counting on us anyway. Bradley smiled grimly. Morrison always knew exactly what to say. The Grimlock Horde has spent centuries terrorizing peaceful species. Morrison continued. They think strength means picking on the weak. They think power means killing the innocent. Today they're going to learn what real strength looks like. The Admiral paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was hard as steel. All ships, battle stations, weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders do to bullies. On the Phoenix, Bradley turned to his weapons officer. Target the largest Grimlock ship, full missile spread. Sir, shouldn't we try to communicate with them first? Give them a chance to surrender? Bradley looked at the burning planet on his screen. They had their chance to be civilized. They chose to be monsters instead. The human fleet moved forward, like a pack of hunting wolves. The ships were sleek and deadly, built for speed and firepower. Each vessel carried weapons designed to punch through the strongest armor. and shields that could withstand the worst punishment the universe could deliver. The Grimlocks saw them coming and began to turn their crude ships to face this new threat. Their vessels were twice the size of the human ships, covered in heavy armor and bristling with weapons. But they moved slowly, like lumbering giants. "Incoming transmission from the Grimlock fleet," Santos reported. "Let's hear what they have to say," Bradley said. The voice that came through the speakers was rough and filled with arrogance. "Unknown vessels, you are interfering with Grimlock military operations. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. We are the Grimlock Horde. We have conquered 100 worlds. We do not fear your small fleet." Bradley turned to his communication officer. "Open a channel to their flagship." When the connection was established, Bradley spoke in a calm, clear voice. "This is Captain Bradley of the Terran Space Navy. You are attacking innocent civilians. Withdraw from this system immediately, or we will destroy you." The Grimlock commander laughed, a harsh sound that made everyone on the bridge wince. "Terran? We have never heard of your species. You have perhaps 50 ships against our 300. Your threats are meaningless." 150 ships, Bradley corrected. "And we're not threatening you. We're making you a promise." The communication cut off, and immediately the Grimlock ships opened fire. Crude energy weapons and primitive missiles streaked toward the human fleet. Bradley watched the enemy fire approach and felt almost disappointed. "Shields up. Return fire." The human response was like lightning compared to thunder. Their weapons were precise, their targeting was perfect, and their firepower was devastating. The first volley of human missiles struck the Grimlock fleet like the hammer of an angry god. Grimlock ships, built for intimidation rather than real combat, began exploding in brilliant flashes of light. Their heavy armor, designed to frighten primitive species, crumpled like paper under human weapons. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Santos. "We just destroyed 30 of their ships in one attack." On the planet's surface, Dr. Nira Vex watched the battle through her emergency periscope. She had never seen anything like it. The mysterious ships that had appeared from nowhere were tearing through the Grimlock fleet like it was made of tissue paper. "Who are they?" asked her assistant, a young Kalani named Kess. "I don't know," Nira replied, watching another group of Grimlock ships explode. "But I think they're here to help us." In space, the battle was already turning into a rout. The Grimlock Horde, used to fighting enemies who followed rules of civilized warfare, had no idea how to handle an enemy that fought to win at any cost. Captain Bradley smiled as he watched enemy ships flee in all directions. "Welcome to the galaxy, humanity," he said quietly. "Let's make sure they remember this day." The space battle was over in less than 30 minutes, but the real fight was just beginning. Colonel Mike Torres stood in the cargo bay of the assault ship Thunder, watching his soldiers check their weapons and armor one final time. Through the ship's cameras, he could see the burning surface of Sanctuary below. "Listen up," Torres called out to his troops. "Intelligence reports show Grimlock ground forces have set up execution camps across the planet. They're systematically killing every Kalani they can find. Our job is simple. Stop them." Sergeant Lisa Park raised her hand. "Sir, what do we know about Grimlock ground forces?" "They're bigger than us, stronger than us in normal gravity, and they've been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries," Torres replied. "But they've never fought humans before. They don't know what Earth gravity does to a soldier's body." Torres activated his armor's power systems, and the mechanical suit hummed to life around him. Every human soldier wore the same gear, powered armor designed to help them move and fight in Earth's crushing 1G gravity. On lighter worlds, it would make them superhuman. "Remember your training," Torres continued. "These aliens have been fighting civilized species who follow rules of war. We follow one rule: protect the innocent by any means necessary." The assault ships descended through Sanctuary's atmosphere like falling meteors. The planet's gravity was only 0.7 G, much weaker than Earth's. As soon as they landed, the human soldiers felt the difference. They could move faster, jump higher, and fight longer than they ever could at home. Torres was the first one out of his ship, and what he saw made his blood boil. The Grimlock forces had built their camp in what used to be a colony city. The beautiful buildings were now ruins, and smoke rose from dozens of fires. In the center of the destruction was a large cage filled with Kalani civilians, men, women, and children waiting to be executed. The Grimlocks themselves were massive creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick armor covering their gray skin. They carried crude but effective weapons, and they moved with the confidence of predators who had never met anything that could challenge them. That was about to change. Alpha Team, take the left flank. Bravo Team, circle around back. Charlie Team with me straight up the middle, Torres ordered through his radio. The first Grimlock sentry never knew what hit him. Sergeant Park's rifle fired a round that punched through his armor like it was cardboard. The alien warrior fell without a sound, and the human advance began. The Grimlocks in the camp heard the gunfire and began shouting in their harsh language. They grabbed their weapons and prepared to fight off what they assumed would be another weak alien species trying to rescue their people. They were wrong. Torres came around the corner of a ruined building, moving faster than any Grimlock had ever seen an enemy move. His powered armor gave him the strength of 3 normal humans, and the light gravity of Sanctuary made him feel like he could fly. He killed 4 Grimlock warriors before they even realized he was there. What are these things? One of the aliens screamed in his own language as human soldiers poured into the camp from all directions. The Grimlock commander, a massive brute named Grak, raised his weapon and fired at Torres. The energy beam struck the human's armor and barely left a mark. Torres turned toward him and smiled behind his helmet. "That's not how you do it," Torres said, even though he knew the alien couldn't understand him. Then he fired his rifle. The Grimlock commander's armor exploded, and the alien fell backward into the dirt. Around the camp, his warriors were discovering that their weapons, designed to fight lightly armored opponents, were useless against human military gear. But it wasn't just their equipment that made the humans deadly. It was their training. These soldiers had learned to fight in Earth's harsh environments, in deserts where the heat could kill, in Arctic conditions where the cold could freeze blood in veins, in storms that could tear buildings apart. The Grimlocks, for all their size and strength, had never faced an enemy that fought with such systematic brutality. They were used to terrorizing farmers and merchants, not trained killers who had been forged in the crucible of the deadliest planet in the galaxy. Sergeant Park kicked down the door of a building where Grimlock soldiers were hiding. The aliens inside raised their weapons, but she was already moving. In the light gravity, she seemed to dance between their shots, her rifle picking them off one by one with mechanical precision. Private Dan Murphy found a group of Grimlocks preparing to execute a family of Kalani civilians. He didn't hesitate. His grenade launcher sent 3 explosive rounds into the execution squad, and the aliens simply disappeared in a cloud of smoke and fire. "Sir," called Corporal Amy Wilson over the radio, "I found more prison cages on the east side of the camp, maybe 300 civilians." "Free them," Torres ordered, "and find out if there are any other camps." As the battle raged, Dr. Nira Vex and her people watched from their underground shelters through hidden cameras. They had never seen anything like these mysterious warriors. The humans moved through the Grimlock camp like ghosts of death, appearing and disappearing, killing with a efficiency that was both terrifying and beautiful. "They're not just fighting the Grimlocks," whispered Kess. "They're destroying them." The battle lasted only 2 hours. When it was over, the entire Grimlock ground force was either dead or fleeing toward their remaining ships in orbit. The execution camps were empty, the prisoners were free, and the surface of Sanctuary was littered with the bodies of aliens who had thought themselves unstoppable. Torres stood in the center of the ruined camp, looking at the freed Kalani civilians. They were small, delicate creatures with large eyes and pale blue skin. They looked at him with a mixture of fear and gratitude that made his chest tight with emotion. One of them, an elderly Kalani male, approached him slowly. The alien said something in his own language, then knelt in the dirt and bowed his head. Torres didn't need a translation to understand what the gesture meant. He reached down and gently helped the old alien to his feet. "You're safe now," he said, quietly, hoping his tone would carry the meaning even if the words didn't. "No one's going to hurt you anymore." Above them, The last of the Grimlock ships were fleeing the system, carrying news that would shake the galaxy to its core. The Grimlock horde, terror of 100 worlds, had been broken by an unknown species in a single day. The age of human dominance had begun. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sanctuary, Dr. Nira Vex stood in the rebuilt communications center of her world's capital city. Around her, human engineers worked alongside Kalani technicians to repair the damage caused by the Grimlock attack. The sight still amazed her. These powerful warriors from Earth were also healers and builders. "The medical supplies from your ship have saved thousands of lives," she told Colonel Torres, who was overseeing the reconstruction efforts. "We cannot thank you enough." Torres smiled, though she could see the tiredness in his eyes. His soldiers had been working non-stop for weeks, not just fighting but helping rebuild everything the Grimlocks had destroyed. "That's what neighbors do for each other," he replied through the translation device they had built together. "Besides, we learned as much from you as you did from us." It was true. The cultural exchange between humans and Kalani had been remarkable. The Kalani had shared their advanced medical knowledge and energy technology, while humans had shown them new ways to think about defense and protection. But the peaceful work was about to be interrupted. "Dr. Vex," called her assistant Kess, from the sensor station. "We're detecting a large fleet approaching the system. The signatures match Vorthak Empire vessels." Nira felt her blood turn cold. The Vorthak were the ones who had ignored their distress calls, the ones who had left them to die at the hands of the Grimlocks. Now they were coming, probably to punish the Kalani for accepting help from an unknown species. "How many ships?" Torres asked, his relaxed manner instantly changing to military alertness. 47 vessels, including several battleships, Kess reported. "They'll be here in 6 hours. Torres activated his communication device. "Admiral Morrison, this is Ground Command. We have incoming Vorthak forces. Looks like they want to have a conversation." Admiral Morrison's voice came through clearly from the human fleet in orbit. "Understood, Colonel. All human civilians are to be evacuated to the ships immediately. This might get ugly." Within the hour, the human fleet had repositioned itself between Sanctuary and the approaching Vorthak armada. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Ragnarok, studying the tactical display. The Vorthak ships were larger than human vessels, and their technology was clearly more advanced than the Grimlocks had been. "Admiral," reported Captain Bradley from the Phoenix, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak flagship." "Let's hear what they have to say," Morrison replied. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and arrogant, speaking in perfect English. The Vorthak had clearly been studying human transmissions. "Unknown human vessels, you are in violation of galactic law by interfering in Vorthak territory. The Kalani system falls under our protection, and your presence here is an act of war." Morrison almost laughed. Their protection? Where were they when the Grimlocks were slaughtering civilians? She opened a channel to respond. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Space Navy. The Kalani called for help and you ignored them. We answered their call. If you want to discuss galactic law, let's start with your failure to protect your allies." There was a long pause before the Vorthak commander responded. "The Kalani losses were acceptable for the greater good of the Empire. Your interference has disrupted our strategic plans. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Morrison felt the same burning anger that had driven humanity to this moment. These aliens talked about the deaths of millions as acceptable losses. They had let an entire civilization suffer because it was convenient for them. "Negative," she replied. "The Kalani are under human protection now. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." The Vorthak fleet moved into attack formation, their ships spreading out to surround the human vessels. It was an impressive display of military power, designed to intimidate any opponent into surrender. Admiral Morrison looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They had volunteered to save strangers, and now they were about to fight an empire to protect their new friends. "All ships, battle stations," she ordered. "Let's show them what happened to the last group that tried to bully our neighbors." The Battle of the Vorthak fleet lasted exactly 14 minutes. The Vorthak had expected to fight the same kind of polite, civilized warfare they were used to. They fired warning shots, made demands, and tried to use their superior numbers to force a surrender. The humans responded with the same devastating efficiency they had shown against the Grimlocks. Their weapons, designed for total warfare, punched through Vorthak shields like they weren't there. Their tactics, learned from centuries of human conflict, turned the aliens' numerical advantage into a liability. When the Vorthak flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the surviving alien ships immediately began broadcasting surrender signals. "This is Admiral Morrison to all Vorthak vessels," she announced over the communication channels. "You are defeated. Gather your survivors and leave this system immediately. If you return with hostile intent, we will finish what you started today." The broken remnants of the Vorthak fleet limped away from Sanctuary, carrying with them news that would change the galaxy forever. Earth was not just another primitive world. It was home to warriors unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the weeks that followed, delegations from dozens of species arrived at Sanctuary. Some came to offer alliance with humanity. Others came to study these new players in galactic politics. All of them came with respect. Captain Reed, promoted to Admiral after his discovery of the alien signal, stood in his new office aboard the orbital station that had been built above Sanctuary. Through his window he could see ships from a dozen different worlds docked at the growing spaceport. "The Galactic Protection Pact now has 23 member species," reported his aide, Lieutenant Santos. "They're all requesting human military, advisors, and defensive agreements." Reed nodded, reading through the reports of human fleets being deployed across the galaxy. Everywhere they went, the same pattern emerged. Bullies backed down, tyrants reconsidered their actions, and peaceful species found themselves with protectors who actually cared about protecting them. Dr. Nira Vex entered his office, now serving as the first alien ambassador to Earth. She carried with her a datapad containing the daily reports from across Kalani space. "The last of the Grimlock raiders have been driven from our territory," she announced. "Our people are free for the first time in generations." Reed smiled. "And the Vorthak Empire?" "They've sent a formal request for peace negotiations. It seems they're very interested in avoiding further conflict with humanity." Reed looked out at the stars, thinking about the chain of events that had brought them to this moment. A single intercepted distress call had revealed humanity's place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or rulers, but as protectors of those who couldn't protect themselves. "You know," he said to Nira, "when your people sent that SOS to the wrong hands, it turned out to be exactly the right hands after all." The Kalani ambassador smiled, an expression her species had learned from their human friends. "Perhaps the universe has a sense of humor, or perhaps it just knew that some species are born to be guardians." In the depths of space, human ships patrolled the trade routes, keeping them safe from pirates and raiders. On distant worlds, human soldiers stood guard over colonies that had never known security. And on Earth, children looked up at the stars and dreamed of the day they too would join the Deathworlder fleet. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. There were new rules now, and somewhere among the stars, the children of Earth were watching to make sure everyone followed them.